Hello, and welcome to another challenge. I am behind, so we're going to work on day 6. In the web exploitation, patch management is hard. Let me start the machine. And okay. During a routine security audit before the incident, McSkitty discovers some recovery passwords on an old server. She created a ticket to decommission this server, so decommission as in taking it offline, to reduce this security vulnerability. The elf assigned to fix this vulnerability kept pushing off the task, and this never got done. Oh no, this is very bad. When you decommission a server, you need to make sure that you take it offline. Luckily, some of those recovery keys can be used to save some systems. Unfortunately, the only way to access the server is through an old web application. See if you can pull out those recovery keys to help McSkitty with her pursuit to save Christmas. So, in this task, we're going to learn about local file inclusion and we're going to identify and test for it. And so, local file inclusion can be found in various web applications. For example, the following functions listed here are for PHP, um, and the functions include, require, include once, and require once. So if you are working in PHP and you see these functions, you should test for local file inclusion. So what this vulnerability allows you to do is it allows you to include and read local files on a server. So these files can be sensitive data such as cryptographic keys, databases that contain passwords, and other private data. Pretty much you can read any file on the system. So, a local file inclusion vulnerability happens due to a developer's lack of security awareness. Um, in some cases, developers need to include the content of other local pages with a specific page. Most times it happens because it's not proper input validation, meaning the application allows any input validation. It assumes that whatever input the user gives is good, and as developers, you should not assume that, and you should do secure programming, and you should assume that any input that you get from the user is bad. So in that case, the local file inclusion. So as I said, a developer should never trust user inputs, and it should be filtered and sanitized. So pretty much what I just said. So what is the risk? So you can read sensitive data if it has read permissions on files, and most files on the file system or server have read permissions. There are specific files, special files, such as Etsy Shadow for like Linux that has the passwords for users. That's only readable for root or the admin user. So there are special files where you can't read, but for the most part, if there's an LFI, you can read a good portion of files. So this makes it a significant risk, as it leaks sensitive data accessed by a regular user. In some cases, you can leverage a local file inclusion and chain it to perform a remote code execution. So if you and with remote code execution, that's where you add code and you can essentially have access to the server on your machine. So it remotes back to you. Um, and it says in this task, we prepared a web application with local file inclusion vulnerability and a possible way to get remote code execution, but we'll be looking at that later. So, ways to identify and test. Normally, you'll be looking at HTTP parameters to manipulate the input and see how the web application behaves. So, most times you're looking for an entry point to test the web application. And parameters are query parameter strings attached to the URL, and that can be used to retrieve data or perform actions based on user input. So, given the example below, this file is the parameter, and then what it's saying is, hey, go to webapp.tryhackme, get.php, so we're getting a file, and the file we want to get is usercv.pd. Now, what you can do, so is getting the file. So what you can do is, after that, you can start looking for particular payloads. Payloads, as in look for particular things, see particular ways to try to do local file inclusion. Here's some here where you do the, if it's a Linux or Unix, you do the double dots, the forward slash double dots, and then you're trying to go up directories, and most times you want to do at least 4, because that way you will go to the top of the directory, which is root, and then you can work your way back down. Also, for Linux, here are some important files that have sensitive data, that has sensitive information, sensitive data. Etsy issue, Etsy password, so that's where all the users, you can see how many users are on the system. Etsy shadow, that's where you can get the hashes for all the users on the system. Etsy group, Etsy host, Etsy motd, Etsy Microsoft myconf. So this is if you have MySQL, then you can see if it has passwords in here. Proc self environ, so to see environment, so environment variables, version, and command line. So most times when you want to do local file inclusion, again, you want to test for Etsy password if you're doing Linux, because then that will enumerate all the users on the machine, and you'll use the double dots to get out of the current directory. The number of dots depends on the web app. As I said, most times you will want to do a minimum of 4. And then to bypass the filters, you can do 4 dots and 2 slashes. And then also you can try URL encoding techniques such as double encoding. So let's go to, we have our IP address 10.10.24.52, and I'm going to go here. Okay, so we have error. So what happens? Let's see. So let's see if we can answer any questions. What is the entry point for our application? So we're at tryhackmelabs.com. Index, we're at the index.php. Here's where the query string starts. Error, and we got the error.txt. This server has sensitive information. So our entry point is error. Okay. Use the entry point to perform local file inclusion to read the Etsy flag. So I'm going to do and as you see, it came at the bottom. So I did 4 and then Etsy flag. And so since this website is vulnerable to local file inclusion, it read. So if I go back to index.txt. Okay. Oh, so let me. Okay, so you see blank error, it has nothing. But if I add my LFI, Oh. It reads the Etsy flag. So it opens that file and it printed its contents, which was the flag. So that's why local file inclusion is very risky, because if the file is read has read permissions and we can access it, the contents will dump. So let's do like Etsy password. That's not part of the challenge, but if you see here, now it has dumped because this file has read permissions, and it's dumped all of the users on this system. Now, use the PHP filter technique to read the source code of the index.php. What is the flag variable's value? Okay, so let's go up. Let's go to PHP filter. The PHP filter wrapper is used in local file inclusion to read the actual PHP page content. In typical cases, it is not possible to read a PHP's file's content via local file inclusion because PHP files get executed and never show the existing code. However, we can use the PHP filter to display the content of PHP files in other encoding formats such as base64 or rotation 13. So rotation 13 should be very familiar. It's the Caesar cipher. So let's first let's try that by reading the using the PHP filter for the Etsy password. So if we do that, I'm going to copy this portion here. Okay, now try to read the index because the web server tries to execute the PHP. To avoid this, we use a PHP filter while base64 or rotation 32 encoding the output as follows. So you see we received an error when we did it because it tried to execute, so nothing happened. So next what we did was, let's try to copy this, and I'm going to add the, and it's converting base64 encode of the Etsy password. Now the Etsy password, the file we just seen, is now in base64. So that worked. Okay, and to read this text as plain text, you can do it in the website. So for instance, we can go to base64 decode, or we can use this here, or we can use the command line. Okay, so now let us do that for the of index.php. Now I'm going to say Control U. copy this. Copy. So do code. Okay, so what is the flag? The flag is here. McSkitty forgot his login credentials. Can you help him or her to log in order to retrieve one of the server's passwords? Now that you have read the index.php, there is a login credential PHP files path. Use the PHP filter technique to read its contents. What is the username and password? So going here, we see that there's an include of creds.php. So let's try to go here and say creds. Okay, it didn't like that. I think I needed the includes. Includes. Okay, it didn't. Wrong way. I was trying because, okay, let me try this again. Creds. Okay, let me go back up. Okay, the PHP wrapper is used to include raw plain text or base64 encoded data. It is used to include images on the current page. It is being used in the local file inclusion exploit. So we're going to base64 encode Advent of Cyber 3 is fun. We did that. And we're decoding. Now we can include our base64 data into the vulnerable page, and as a result, the page will display Advent of Cyber 3 is fun. So using this technique, we can include PHP code into a page by encoding the required PHP data, required code, and including it into a PHP data wrapper. So other PHP wrappers could be used in the local file inclusion vulnerability. So let's see. So I'm going to do that for the creds. So I'm gonna open, and I'm going to okay, base 64 creds.php. I want to oh no, so I'm going to I wonder if I need to include that at the top. So let's say data. Okay, it print creds.php. Okay, so all it's going to do is print. So it turns it into plain text. So because if we go here, we see this includes creds.php. Most times would it be okay that prints this is not there creds.php. No. Okay. Creds. Mm-mm. So because it is okay. I see this here. So session start includes creds.php. So this is where we need includes header.php. Let me see something. I'm gonna remove that. Header. Okay. What does this say? Username, password. So it's the filter. Because I know it is base 64. It has to be right in front of my face. And I am just going past it. Okay, because the error mess includes creds.php. Let me look at this. Include function. Something I must be missing. Okay. No. Let me look at the error because I've seen that error many a times. Okay, I know what I did. So the first dot in Linux means the current folder. So let me go here and let me change this to includes. I don't need the forward slash because the forward slash is right. Okay. So adding the forward slash, this doesn't work. And I'm going to explain this very quickly. That doesn't work because the forward slash in Linux and Unix is saying go to the root directory. So it's saying, hey, look for root, go to root, look for the includes directory, and look for creds.php. But that doesn't exist on our file system. That's why we're getting this warning and this error. So removing this, we got the information because it's saying current folder. That's what the dot is. Current folder includes creds.php. So now if I go here, so I'm actually gonna say base 64 decode. I'm gonna say help. And I'm gonna go here. Can I not say echo? Oh, let me try to put this in parentheses because it's thinking it's a actual directory and it's not. Okay, so I'm just gonna go here. Wait, how do they do it? Yeah, I'm just gonna go here. Okay, so McSkitty and this Avenue Cyber 3 is awesome. Okay, so we're going to use that to log in. So now we have the McSkitty. We have the information. Now we have logged in. Help McSkitty to recover the server's password. What is the password of the flag.thm.aoc server? Password recovery. And that is right here. Now, the web application logs all users' requests, and only authorized users can read the log file. Use the local file inclusion to gain remote code execution execution via the log file. What is the host name of the web server? So let us go up, and that's this section here. So also called log poisoning. So it's a way to get remote code execution on the server. It needs include a malicious payload into log files such as Apache SSH, and then we use the LFI to request the page that includes the malicious payload. So we need a variety of factors, design of the web application, server configurations, things of that nature. So we're going to use the user agent or other HTTP headers. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the user agent, and what we're going to say, we're going to use curl, and it's going to say this is testing, and we're going to provide this URL. Okay, so this is testing, and we're going to provide that. And so once we send the request using curl, using a registered user, we can check the log pages to see if it's added. If it added, oh, this is for the user agent. I don't know where that came from. Let me just close that. And it says this is testing. So now what we're going to do is going to inject some PHP code, and this is just going to print the, if you have PHP on your server, it's going to print the PHP info. And doing that, you see this. So now we host name. Come on, let's see. Host name. So it looks like I might want to call the server. Okay. Oh, this could be spoofed. But let's just try this. The server name. Let's try that. So what we're going to say is, let me open. And I'm going to say curl-a. Yeah, so server name. Oh, do I need a little? Okay, now that's correct. Server name. let's see. So I need to see if I need to add a semicolon. Yes. Yes, I do. Okay. So server, and then I'm going to say let's try this. Paste selection. $sign server. Okay. So open a new tab. Okay, how about I go to home? Oh, log access. So that didn't work. So let's try PHP info. PHP info. I need to call it, I think it said I need to call it via LFI. So yeah, because I don't, that's me, but I don't see it. So logs. Okay, so that worked. It printed Server name has it as localhost. Okay, so okay, so I am back with answering the final question in challenge 6, and we need to use local file inclusion to gain a remote code execution via the log file. So remember, let's go back to the IP and remember that we look for an entry point. In this case, it's error here. And if we do this, we can see the Etsy password, which shows all the users inside of the Linux file system for this file system. So let me log in. And we have the password here, McSkitty. And Avenue Cyber is awesome. Now we're in the log access. Now if we go back here, and just to make sure that this works, I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to say curl A. Remove the space. Okay. So now if we log out, and we go to the logs, includes oops, logs app access dot logs log. And now we see the PHP info that we injected in. So this lets us know that we can inject PHP code here. So now I am going to take this and I am going to copy, change this, and I'm going to say include and I'm going to title that command. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to include a new parameter command, and let's see. Okay, did not like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go back. And if I go, so it says file name cannot be empty. So let's try to add command equal who am I? Okay, it did not like that. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't like this command. So what I'm going to do is going to try the base 64 encode. And who am I? Oh, that's decode. Now I want encode. Okay, so I'm going to take this. Okay, that didn't work either because it didn't translate. It just typed it. So if I do this, okay, it cannot be empty. I'm gonna name this command. Yeah. Okay. It did not change it. Okay. Okay. So this is the host name. So I was making it way harder than what it needed to be. Oh my god. I was making it way harder than what it needed to be because the host name was right there. I was trying to type add an extra parameter command and then have that execute with the who am I and to see it, but the host name was right there, so I didn't even need to do all that. Okay, The current PHP configuration stores the PHP session files in temp. Use the LFI to call the PHP session file to get your PHP code executed. So let's go here. Okay, the local file inclusion to RCE via PHP sessions follows the same concept of the log poisoning technique. PHP sessions are files within the operating system that store temporary information. After the user logs out of the web application, the PHP session information will be deleted. This technique requires enumeration to read the PHP configuration file first, and then we know where the PHP sessions files are. Then we include a PHP code into the session and finally call the file via local file inclusion. PHP stores session data and files within the system in different locations based on the configuration. The following are some of the common locations that the PHP stores in. Once the attacker finds where PHP stores the session file and can control the value of their session, the attacker can use it to chain an exploit within local file inclusion to gain remote code execution. If we enumerate and read the PHP configuration of the vulnerable web application we provided, we can see that it stores the PHP sessions into the temp directory. It also stores the value of the username into the session even if you are not logged in, since this value is needed by the developer to use it in the logs function. We inject the PHP code into the user section in the following figure stored in the PHP session file. To find the PHP session file name, PHP by default uses the following naming scheme: session ID, where we can find the session ID using the browser and verifying cookies sent from the server. To find the session ID in the browser, we can open the developer tools, then the applications tab. From the left menu, select cookies and select the target website. There is a PHP sesh ID and the value. In my case, the value is that, therefore the file will be sesh that. Finally, we know it is stored in temp. Now we can use the LFI to call the session file. So as a result, we will have the PHP code that we injected into the username file shown on the page. Now apply what we discussed to gain RCE, or remote code execution, on the web server using the local file inclusion to remote code execution via PHP sessions. So I believe we also here so I'm gonna run this again. Okay, and then if we, because I believe we have the host the session ID here inside PHP info. Yep, we have it. So here's ours right here. Well, mine. Yours will be different. And so let's see if we do. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to change. Okay, so Oh, we inject this into our username and test. Oh, so let's do okay. And okay. Okay. Once that's okay, so stores the value of the username into the session even if you are not logged in, since this value is needed by the developer to use in the logs. Okay, so it's in temp. So maybe that's not the correct cookie. No. Yeah, the cookie changed. Let's see. No, that didn't work. The cookie was different. Maybe let me put this here. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yes, the same. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna do this. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Let me. Okay. I want to clear the cache. I'll try this again. Okay. So I completed the room. This was my last challenge. And I made this a lot harder than what it needs to be. This is going to actually be longer, and that's because, as I said, I made this a lot harder than it needed to be. So I hope you learned a lot for local file inclusion and how risky it is and prevalent it is in web applications. And I can't wait to see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.